I mean, I think it was just really exciting, you know. We thought it was all over. We were surprised when we got the call that there was a new book coming in from Suzanne. And then when I read the book, to see that we could kind of reinvent the world a little bit and build it in a different way and tell a very different kind of story, even though it really is very much a Hunger Games film, was really, really exciting. I mean, you know, I think it's like what Suzanne Collins does, you know, especially in this like YA world, that, you know, she writes from theme, right? She comes up with ideas that she wants to write stories about. And so the first series was all about the consequence of war. She doesn't pull any punches. She doesn't talk down to her audience. And I think that's partly why that audience responded and why it also crossed like to younger, to older. And she creates dynamic, like an amazing world, dynamic stories, like compelling characters. It's all about theme, and I think people like really hook in. Well, I mean, Tom kind of came out of the blue, I have to say, which was an amazing thing. We sort of knew we were casting somebody unknown for the role, and he came in kind of late in the game and saw an audition. But once we did, it was like, this guy is clearly Snow. He's so talented and so smart. Rachel was my first choice. I saw her in West Side Story, and I was like, we have to get Rachel for Lucy Gray. So that was great. And same with Viola. I wanted Viola was my first choice. I had a little relationship with her. And, you know, it took a little sort of like educating a bit. You know, she knew about the books and the movies, obviously, but hadn't seen them. She also knew the amazing pedigree of like cast that we've had over the years. So she knew there had to be something there. But I think she got hooked in and also into the idea of really doing something wildly different for her. And I think she had fun doing that. I mean, I think the movie on its own stands on its own. So ideally, new fans can come in, whether or not you know the books or the movies or whatever, and come in and enjoy this experience. I think for fans of the movies and the books, what's great about this is it's an origins movie. And it's not just the origin of a villain we know. It's the origins of the world, the origins of the game, the origins of songs we know, of behavior we know, of relationships we know, that changes your perception of the books and the movies that you're familiar with. And I think it's like wildly fulfilling.
Are we going to get a bit more?
I don't know. I mean, it's up to Suzanne. I have to say, like, Nina and I were always like, it comes from Suzanne. If Suzanne writes a book, like, we're there.
Nuts. This is like a huge function, so that's really cool, and I don't know, I think the movie is really deserving of that, and everybody who's here who worked really hard on it, they deserve to celebrate. So Tigris is Coriolanus's cousin, and they've grown up in the capital together and sort of been each other's caretakers. Yeah, that dynamic has kind of lasted from childhood up until where we meet them now. So, well, I think under the guise of you know, this really cool kind of dystopian sci-fi world, there is something really deeply human that Suzanne Collins kind of infuses into her stories. And I don't know, I think if there's any sort of like mission or something to take away from it, the delivery of it through the sort of like fantasy world might come across easier to people than like the harsh reality of some of what the stuff is talking about. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it kind of like takes me a minute to like understand that this like really cool thing is happening to me. So I don't think I kind of like had the moment until I was there on set doing it. But I know that like little 12-year-old me, who was a huge fan of the books, was losing her mind when I got the role. So yeah, I mean, I think for any fans of the Hunger Games, any sort of cravings they've built up over the years will be fed to some degree, but also they'll be given something like new. It's a new sort of flavor that's come out of a beloved original series, you know?
I mean, nothing short of incredible. This turnout is unbelievable. This is really spectacular. I don't know, I'm finding it hard to put into words at the moment. It's all coming to fruition, you know. Without giving too much away, Sejanus Plinth is, you know, he's a man of conviction. He's got a lot of heart. He comes in from District 2 into the capital when his dad gets a lot of wealth. and he's an outsider, you know? He meets a lot of opposition just for trying to do the right thing.
What was it like working with Rachel and, of course, Tom?
I mean, it was great. Like, we already knew how to work with one another really smoothly, so we just had a lot of fun. Tom is an amazingly intelligent human being. We got on really well in the beginning, even in pre-production. You know, we did a lot of hanging out, so the chemistry was just there by the time we started filming. I hope they love it even half as much as I did. I'm really, really proud to be a part of this. I can't wait for everybody to see it. I think it's so solid. It's such a good movie. Yes, this is Dolce & Gabbana. My stylist, Enrique Melendez, gave me this. And we got this little brooch on the side. I'm ecstatic about this. I put it on for the first time like an hour ago, and oh my goodness, I feel so amazing.
Well, I mean, to answer your first question, it is surreal. It's so exciting being here in my home city and seeing all the fans come out. You know, that is a wonderful feeling. In terms of the words on the screen, it begins and ends with Suzanne. Like, these are Suzanne's stories, Suzanne's characters. It is our privilege to be bringing them. For me, I can't quite believe that I was a part of it. That's the wonderful thing about a team where it's this collaborative, is you watch it and you just feel like you all did it together, rather than it being any one person's responsibility. Well, that's the thing. There are, of course, difficulties in distilling any novel down to a screenplay and putting it and making sure it's visual and dramatic and exciting. But Suzanne is such a keen custodian of her own creation that so long as you're willing to collaborate, which is my favorite part of the job, it's great. She was on hand throughout. We were doing like 4-hour calls 4 times a week throughout the scripting. You know, like, she was absolutely intimately involved. So really, so long as you go in willing to be open and work with people, it's a joy. In a lot of YA novels that don't kind of pop out as well, people maybe talk down to your audience. Suzanne writes at such a high level and with such sophisticated themes, such sophisticated characters, that I think people just always find something new in every iteration of the story. So I think it's that she doesn't just write YA books, she writes proper adult stories. I mean, this is definitely the dream cast. Are you kidding? Yeah. It's a very tricky question. With this, sometimes production is already kind of moving, and you start talking about people with the director early on, and you start talking about people with Suzanne early on, but then you can't really pin your ideas too firmly in case that person's busy. Or with this, we just lucked out and get it. Like, people are so enamored of the brand. Working with Francis is something everyone wants to do. Working with Nina Jacobson, Brad Simpson, working with Lionsgate. So really, we got a pick of the cast. Viola was absolutely extraordinary and came aboard straight away. You know. So no, I didn't actually have to kind of write with anyone in mind for this, but the cast we got, just a dream. Tom, Rachel, like the discovery of Tom in this, it's such a role, you know. I think because it's spectacular, it's exciting, it's emotional, and when you get that sound going and you're immersed in the story, I think you won't look away. You'll just be shot like a rocket to the moon. It's amazing.
It's incredibly exciting. I'm going to watch through tonight. You know, sometimes when you have premieres and whatnot, you don't always watch through, but this is my first time getting to watch it with fans. So I'm really excited for tonight too. Well, Suzanne really made it easier for us, of course, by giving us this very rich, 64 years earlier period to explore. And so there were a lot of things I learned reading the book and that we were excited to show. And then shooting in Germany and Poland, being able to use all of this incredible practical locations really helped to bring it to life. And then you sort of see the beginnings of the Panem that we know from the original movies, kind of being cranes and skyscrapers, but you also see a very different time and really an origin for the games, the capital, and snow. We, of course, as you'd imagine, auditioned hundreds of people. Finding Tom was an incredible breakthrough for us. I really didn't know his work other than seeing his posters around for Billy the Kid. But once he auditioned, he stole the part. And you probably have heard, but Frances met with Rachel before anybody. And we wanted her to do it, but she didn't think, she'd been in London doing Snow White alone during that post-COVID isolation. She's like, I can't start another movie in Berlin 3 days after I wrap. Then we had finally a breakthrough piece of casting on Sejanus, and I had no idea that Josh was her boyfriend. he gives an amazing audition. I'm like, oh, we found our Sejanus. He really like blew us away. Then I'm informed, well, he's her boyfriend. And then we get a phone call. Is it too late? Will you consider me now?
That is incredible.
Yeah. And I think it also really speaks so well of them because Rachel was like, you have to make sure that everybody knows that, like, he got the part. I'm doing it because he's doing it. He's not doing it because I'm doing it. I think, I hope people will be energized and inspired. And I think, it's an incredible origin story for Snow, but also for the games, and to really see how we got to the movies that we have already seen, the books we've already read, and to see really the building blocks and the role that Snow played in the games becoming what we've seen in the original movies. Oh, well, I'm very excited to see it with fans tonight. I'm very excited for that.
So good.
It's an honor. I feel so honored to be bringing this to the fans and to have been able to make this movie with my friends and with an incredible filmmaker and to speak the words of Suzanne Collins. Yeah, I think the thing about Lucy Gray is that we don't know too much about her, and I love that about her. She's so mercurial and enigmatic. She flies through life for her own self-preservation, and I think it's such an honorable thing. And she also uses her voice when she has something to say. Suzanne writes this fantasy version of the reality that she sees around her. And the thing about our world is that it's ever changing, but the core principles of humanity and what society looks like remain the same. And I think that the fact that that lasts forever and that fans always find that resonance with the plot, it just keeps it going on and on forever, which is a beautiful thing. And we walk away with questions about ourselves and about the world around us. I mean, Tom is one of the most amazing actors and such an intentional, intelligent actor. And getting to work with that is delicious for an actor like me because I love seeking that out in other actors. What a lovely scene partner to have and someone who's so easy to fall in love with. He's just a joy, and it was so fun to play with those characters with him. There is so much action and an amazing set designed by Uli Hanisch, beautiful costumes by Trish Somerville. See it in a huge theater with speakers to hear Dave Cobb's and James Newton Howard's music, and enjoy some good old-fashioned cinema.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was a fan of the movies growing up, and I do think Coriolanus Snow is like one of the best movie villains ever created, so I feel very lucky to get to kind of return to not only the world, but especially him, because he's like, when I think about all-time movie characters in general, not only villains, I think of Donald Sutherland and Coriolanus, so really cool to be able to go back in time with the franchise and the history of the movie, and kind of start afresh and bring a new take on him.
Can I ask you about then Donald Sutherland? Did you go back and watch any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen those movies so many times, I almost didn't have to, but I did definitely kind of revisit, especially his scenes, and kind of studied them, because at the end of the film, all I'll say without spoiling anything is that he ends very differently than he begins in this movie, and so for me it was really important that by the end you started to see the future kind of President Snow creeping in. Yeah.
What was that moment like when you find out, though, you're going to be in the prequel to a Hunger Games movie?
Honestly, hard to put into words, which I know is a cop-out answer, but like you really do go speechless when you find out something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Rachel and I have just become really good friends. Hey, mate. Really, really good friends. Almost immediately. I mean, like we kind of like had a baptism of fire into a world that we both already loved, and I think both of us felt the pressure at the beginning, and so we kind of leaned on each other to support each other through it, and through that we became kind of comrades and friends, and the chemistry was kind of natural. For me, it's if you think that you know Coriolanus Snow, think again. And be prepared to fall in love with him and then get heartbroken by him as he becomes the future Snow.